and welcome to Grace Commons. My name is Linda Carlson, and I'm the moderator of the Grace Commons Deacon Board. Before we begin worship, there are a few things that we would like you to know. First of all, many thanks to those of you who have given so generously to those that were impacted by the Marshall Fire. You've opened your homes, you've shared your resources, and you have sat and listened to the stories of the survivors. Thank you. As an expression of our care and concern, the deacons have assembled and distributed relief baskets to those in our congregation who lost their homes. We covet your prayers for wisdom and discernment as we seek God's guidance in how to best support our community on the road to recovery. Common space small groups will resume next week. If you are not part of a group, you can visit the website and register there. Roots on the Road take fun day adventures throughout the Boulder-Denver area. This month, they are headed to the Colorado History Museum, and next month to the Candlelight Playhouse in Johnstown. Be sure to RSVP as these events fill up quickly. On February 4th, bring a friend to experience a one-of-a-kind evening as 5 pianos play in tandem at Pianos Alive. If you are new to Boulder or Grace Commons, Pastor Randy Bear would love to meet you. Bring your questions and appetite to our newcomers lunch on February 27th. RSVP on our website so that we can set a place at the table for you. Now, let's worship together.
Well, good morning, friends. It's good to be together. Thank you so much for joining us, whether you're here in the sanctuary or whether you're joining us online at home. We did want to let our online folks know this morning that if you have a pen and paper handy, you're going to want to have that for a little bit later in the service. But friends, let's get started like we always do by standing and using our voices to praise the Lord. Oh, the Lord, our strength and song, highest praise to him belongs. Christ the Lord, our conquering King, your name we raise, your triumph sing. Praise the Lord, our mighty warrior, praise the Lord, the glorious one. By his hand we stand in victory, and by his name we overcome. Though the storms of hell pursue, in darkest night we worship you. You divide the raging sea, from death to life you safely lead. Praise the Lord, praise the Lord, our mighty warrior. Praise the Lord, the glorious one. By his hand we stand in victory, and by his name we all the saints and angels bow, hosts of heaven are crying out, glory, glory to the King. You reign for all eternity. Oh, praise the Lord, our mighty warrior. Praise the Lord, the glorious one. By his hand we stand in victory, and by his name we overcome. The Lord shall reign forever and ever. The Lord shall reign forever and ever. The Lord shall reign forever and ever. The Lord shall reign overcome. Amen. Well, again, so good to have you with us this morning in worship. It's good to be back. My name is Joe. I'm the worship leader here. This is our wonderful worship team. And we know, as was hinted at in the announcement video, that this is a particularly challenging time for many of us in our community, whether you were affected by the Marshall Fire, you know someone who was affected, or we're just bringing in normal, everyday things that happen to us, things that we carry on our hearts into worship. And we want you to know that wherever you're coming from, that this is the place where we can lay those things, our joys, our sorrows, our struggles before the Lord. And so we're going to play this song, The Nearness of You, which assures us of God's faithfulness and is built out of Psalm 73. And so just briefly, we're going to hear from Psalm 73 as we begin to sing this song this morning.
This is verses 23 through 26. Yet I am always with you. You hold me by my right hand. You guide me with your counsel, and afterward you will take me into glory. Whom have I in heaven but you? And earth has nothing I desire besides you. My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever.
Surely you are good, but my heart ran away. Surely you are good, but I was swept away. Surely you are good, but my heart ran away. Surely you are swept away. But you brought me back to this place. You gave me water, gave me drink. Brought me back to this place. You gave me water, gave me drink. Strength, my refuge. Whom have I but you? My flesh, my heart may fail. Whom have I but you? You've been my strength, my refuge. Whom have I but you? The nearness of you is my only good. The nearness of you is my only good. The nearness of you is my only good. is my only good. The nearness is my only good. Amen. You can take a seat. Right now, we're going to have a time for our young disciples. So if you were a kid and you'd like to join us down front, you're welcome to do that. Parents, you're of course welcome to join it as well. We're going to have a time for our young disciples. Come on down.
So glad to see you guys. Come on down. There's more room on the carpet if you want to sit where it's soft. There you go. Has anybody ever called you a name that you didn't like? Maybe. Yeah, that happens sometimes. Okay, good to know. Once when I was a kid, someone called me Sow. Do you know what that means? It's a big pig. And I did not like it. So there's lots of times that people can call each other mean names. But there's also nice names, like in your family. Sometimes parents might call their kids Sweetie or Pumpkin or Buddy or something like that. Do any of you have names like that in your family? Yeah? What's the name from your family? This scout's going to talk right back here, but you did a good job before. What was that? Pumpkin is the one in your family. Anybody else have one? So those are nice names, right? I call those the love names. And God has love names for us. Some of them are written down in the Bible. And today with the adults, we're going to be talking about one of my favorites, which is when God calls us my delight. Delight means something you're really happy about, like I delight in cherry pie. But do you know what God delights in? You, and you, and you, and you, and you. God delights in you guys. So he's really happy to be with you. He loves it when you're with him and when you talk with him, and he likes watching you and seeing you play. So if anybody ever calls you something mean, or maybe you're just having a down day or you don't feel great, you can remember, I'm someone that God delights in. That's one of my names, my delight. Let me pray for you guys. Lord Jesus, I pray that these young friends would receive your delight in them, that they would know that and it would last them their whole life long. Amen. Thanks for coming up. Thank you for contributing. Okay, we're getting the mask thing going here and the mic. I think this is one of the harder things about preaching. Today I managed to get the mic stuck up my nose while I was putting my mask on. Welcome. So glad that you're here. Usually I get to sit where you are. Today I get to play the other end.
Ladies and gentlemen, pardon the interruption for this important news. There's been a COVID outbreak at the Boulder County office of changing names. Frank, how are things at the office there?
Well, as you can see, it's closed, leaving many people disappointed, like this gal here.
Well, I was in line to get my name changed, but now who knows how long that will take?
And what is your name?
All of you.
I love you too, I guess, in a platonic sort of way.
No, my name is Olive You.
I can see why you want that changed. And there's plenty of options, so what were you thinking of going with?
Tomorrow at night?
Well, okay, like a movie or something? Oh, how about just coffee? Is coffee?
Sorry to cut you off, Frank, but we urgently need to contact others who've recently been to the name change office. Paige Turner, Isadora Bell, Robin Banks, Burton Ernie, and karaoke. If you have information, call the station and ask for me, Pete Moss.
Or Frank Einstein.
Thank you to Sophie and Nick and Dawn. Some names beg to be changed. In the newscast, the names are funny or they're awkward. But what if you had a really terrible name, like desolate or deserted? Let's hear what Isaiah 62 has to say about this. For Zion's sake, I will not keep silent. For Jerusalem's sake, I will not remain quiet, till her vindication shines out like the dawn, her salvation like a blazing torch. The nations will see your vindication, and all kings your glory. You will be called by a new name that the mouth of the Lord will bestow. You will be a crown of splendor in the Lord's hand, a royal diadem in the hand of your God. No longer will they call you deserted or name your land desolate, but you will be called Hephzibah. That one took me a while. And your land Beulah, for the Lord will take delight in you, and your land will be married. As a young man marries a young woman, so will your builder marry you. As a bridegroom rejoices over his bride, so will your God rejoice over you. I have posted watchmen on your walls, Jerusalem. They will never be silent, day or night. You who call on the Lord, give yourselves no rest, and give him no rest till he establishes Jerusalem and makes her the praise of the earth. The Lord has sworn by his right hand and by his mighty arm, never again will I give your grain as food for your enemies, and never again will foreigners drink the new wine for which you have toiled. But those who harvest it will eat it, and praise the Lord, and those who gather the grapes will drink it in the courts of my sanctuary. Pass through the gates, prepare the way for the people. Build up the highway, remove the stones, raise a banner for the nations. The Lord has made proclamation to the ends of the earth. Say to daughter Zion, see, your Savior comes. See, his reward is with him, and his recompense accompanies him. They will be called the holy people, the redeemed of the Lord, and you will be called sought after, the city no longer deserted. Amen. Let's pray. Lord, open our hearts this morning to your word and teach us. Amen. We're in a series called All Things New, and today is about new names, as you probably already picked up. Jerusalem was in a difficult period at the time that this prophecy is addressed to. In the 6th century BCE, the Babylonians took over the city. They ransacked the temple, the palace. They broke down the walls. They deported most of the people to serve in their own country, and they burned it. In December, when I was assigned this passage, I was trying to envision what this was like, and I thought to myself, oh, maybe like Kentucky and Tennessee after those tornadoes. But I never would have imagined that I would be thinking, oh, like Louisville and Superior. But that's where we are, right? So I feel like we can relate to the situation that this passage was spoken into, and that it has something special for us, that this was actually chosen ahead of time. But who knew, right? The Lord knew. So it's no wonder in this situation that they need their name changed. And it turns out there is a divine name change office. It's not too surprising because in the Bible, names are very important. They have significance, they have meaning, and they're often about a person's destiny. They're about their identity. And it's a good thing that there is a name change office, because all of us sometimes carry names, identifiers that we think we ought to get rid of. And for Jerusalem, deserted and desolate are the ones that are given here as their old names. Deserted can also have the connotation of forsaken in Hebrew. Desolate, you might think of the word devastated, sometimes translated that way. The new names are multiple in the passage here. Some of them are at the very end here in verse 12. Holy people, the redeemed of the Lord, sought after, a city no longer deserted. So these are showing the 180 that God is going to do for Jerusalem. It's really a beautiful, hopeful passage. So words like recompense, vindication, glory, these beautiful images like Jerusalem as a crown for the Lord and a diadem, which is also a type of crown. We sang "Crown Him with Many Crowns" in the early service. Did you know that the crown the Lord delights in wearing is his people? It says their salvation will be shining out like a torch. They will be shining like the dawn. So this is a wonderful image that is portrayed here in the prophecy. And Jerusalem was rebuilt. And after about 70 years in stages, you can read about it in the Bible, Nehemiah, Ezra, Zerubbabel, all those people. And so there was a portion of this prophecy that was fulfilled in more or less the period of the original hearers. But much of this, the extravagance of it, makes me think the final fulfillment will be when the new heaven and the new earth are here, as Randy preached about last time, after Jesus returns. In fact, on the new earth is the new Jerusalem, it says in Revelation. And the new Jerusalem is not just the place where people who had originally been inhabitants of Jerusalem live. It actually is for all of God's people. So that's us, right? So this prophecy is also about us. The two names that I'd really like to focus on today are in verse 4. You will be called Hephzibah, and your land Beulah, for the Lord will take delight in you, and your land will be married. Hephzibah means the Lord takes delight. Beulah means married. And then the prophet goes on to describe this a little more. As a young man marries a young woman, so will your builder marry you. As a bridegroom rejoices over his bride, so will God rejoice over you. So this name, the Lord's delight, married to the Lord, it's really a name about love. And there's a particular image about what that love looks like here, the bridegroom. Have you ever known a young bridegroom anticipating getting married? What's that like to watch them? They are intense, right? There's a longing. It's scary. They are scared, probably. There's a passion. One of my friends said, this is practically an R-rated passage. It's about deep love and a desire to commit forever, right? When Will and I were dating and I was growing and learning about the love of God, one day I thought to myself, oh, God is like Will. That made Will laugh. Because the truth, of course, is that Will is a little bit like God. But it was a new picture for me. Like, this is what love looks like. It looks like pursuit. It looks like delight. It looks like joy in me. It looks like someone who values me. It looks like someone who wants to be with me all the rest of their lives. This is the love of God. And all of our human relationships have a little bit of that reflection, right? A little bit like God's love, but God's love is so much greater. But this bridegroom image is used a lot in the Bible. In the New Testament, Jesus is the bridegroom, and the church, his people, are the bride. So this is both present tense and also will be completed in the future, in the coming kingdom. So that means if you are a believer, if you are following the Lord, you already have this new name. You are married to the Lord. That's what it says, right? He delights in you. It's for us. I have a young friend who thinks that he may never take a wife. And we were looking at some passages like this one day, and he said, "Oh, I still get to have a wedding." And he was right, but not just a wedding. He will be part of the wedding feast of the Lamb that happens in Revelation, to which no human wedding could hold a candle, right? There's no comparison. This is the central relationship around which everything in life revolves, is the Lord's deep and passionate love for us, and it's available to everybody. In a wedding, people make vows, right? And among humans, it's good for us to make vows. It's important. Love, honor, cherish. But by the time the day is out, probably in some small way, those vows have already been broken. Weddings are stressful days, and those things happen. And sometimes, sadly, the relationship can be broken altogether. But the Lord also makes vows. Later on in the passage, you were hearing about what the Lord has sworn to do for Jerusalem. All over the scriptures, we see the Lord's oaths about his love for his people and what he intends to do. So his vow to you is never going to be broken. He's never impatient. He will never leave you. He's never angry out of turn. He's never demanding his own way. And it's not a vow till death do us part, because death is not going to part us. It's the vow for all eternity. This is the Lord's commitment to us. It could be hard, I think, to take this in. It's hard sometimes for us to believe that. A lot of us probably, we have intellectual assent of God's love, but I just want you to receive Jesus loves you in this way, this passionate, committed, steadfast, loyal, tender, and intimate love. Yeah. Let me just say, if you're a visitor today investigating Jesus, or maybe you've been going to church here for decades and have never really moved into that love relationship with him, God already has that passionate love for you, and he is longing for it to be mutual when you're ready. So this is our name. Our name is loved by God, married to God, God's delight. Does this mean that who we are has somehow been eliminated? No. Have you been in a friendship where the friendship actually brings out the true you? This is what's going on. God's love brings out our true identity. We walk into this new name that is everything that we are meant to be. And it's already there for us. We just have to move into it. Let's think a minute about the impact that this prophecy might have had on the original hearers and what it might do for us. So, one thing that I'm sure came to them is hope. And aren't we also pretty desperately in need of hope after the last couple of years? Second, it reminded them of what's true and what's not true. So it says, you have been called desolate and deserted. By whom? It doesn't say. Perhaps even by themselves. But it wasn't true that they were deserted, right? God is saying, no, I love you. I'm with you. And behind the scenes, I am working towards your beautiful future. So one of these old names was not true and needed to be discarded. What is true is that God's love lasts forever. Now, when we're in a situation like we are, like post-fire, or other sufferings you have had, I just think it's a natural human inclination to doubt the love of God. I just think that's where we usually end up. For me, that's certainly the case. So I might not voice it that way, but I think to myself, maybe God has left me. Like, how could this happen if he were with me? Or how could a loving God allow, and you fill in the blank, right? There's a lot of ways that blank could be filled in these days. So these are normal questions. Like we need to come to him with those, and we need to work through that. We have our shock, we have our grief, we might have anger. But alongside of all of that, we need to remind ourselves of what's true and keep going back to the love of God and his goodness, which we see in the scriptures. The third thing that I think this passage would have done for the original hearers was radically expand their idea of restoration. Now, Jerusalem was rebuilt. By the time of Jesus, it's a great city, right? But there was more to it than buildings. We've all just had a really severe reminder of how temporary buildings are, and most other stuff. The restoration that's talked about in this passage, it's about people, right? And it's about people in love relationship with the Lord, and then all that happens because the people are in right relationship with the Lord. People are eating what they've labored for. They're eating in peace. They do it in the presence of the Lord. There's justice in that. All of these things flow out of this right relationship between them and the Lord. So as we think of our county and as we pray, we can pray that those who don't yet know the love of God would be prompted by this suffering to seek him. And we can open our mouths and say what we know. But we also need to pray for ourselves. To pray that we would deepen in the love of God. That we could take this in. In times like this, we're all very challenged. They're hard times. And so we need to pray for our own hearts to be open to the Lord. Now you might think to yourself, I don't know, this sounds kind of selfish. There's so many people around in need. Isn't it a time to be thinking about others? But I'll just remind you what we've been learning on the news. This is going to be a long-haul recovery. We got a lot of years to come in this. And if we're going to keep offering love and care, we need to be going to the well ourselves. Then we can hand off the water, and we can point people towards the well. For myself, the last couple of years have been a really difficult time, and I think that would be the case for most of us, right? We've had COVID, we've had terrible divisions in our nation, we've had the King Soopers shooting, we've had difficulties in our church, and now we have this fire. And in the midst of the whole thing, I have felt the Lord's call to me. Come in closer. Come deepen. I think probably because my faith is not deep enough for the challenges that I am facing. He says, come in, I want to show you my love. And he's given me some specific steps, things to do. So one of them right now for me is spending 20 minutes most mornings in silence before him. And something is happening, which I was not sure I really knew how to talk about because I don't have a lot of words, but there's something new happening with his love for me. Not that he's different, but I'm getting it a little more. Like I feel his tenderness, his constancy, his nearness. My love for him is growing, which how could it not when I see how he loves me? So it's been a beautiful gift to me in the midst of what feels like so much chaos. But I really think this is God's call for his people in this area. That in the face of these trials, we need to come in closer and receive his love and grow in it. So I don't care how wizened a saint you are. I mean, we have some really mature believers in this church. But I can tell for certain that you have hardly scratched the surface of God's love. How do I know that? Because it is so immense. In the first service, we sang the deep, deep love of Jesus. Vast, unmeasured, boundless. Something we could never describe, much less completely explore. There is so much more for you. We are like people with the winning lottery ticket in our pocket, and we don't know it, and we walk around and never cash it in. We are so passionately loved and so oblivious to it. We have to move in closer to him. If you ask him, if you surrender, he will show you the path. He has a path for you. I would say honestly that one of the paths is suffering. There's a call to deepen out of the kind of suffering we've gone through, but there is also something inherent in the suffering that opens our hearts to him. I've found that in my life over and over again. In my 20s, when I had a very long illness, after the death of my dad, again now, there is a door open to a sweetness with the Lord if I will walk through it. He is indeed near the brokenhearted and wants us to come nearer to him. There's a lot going on right now, but I so implore you, make some space in your life to go deeper with the Lord and receive more of his love. I have a little exercise that I thought might just get us started in this. I think habits are really important in receiving the love of God because it's not a one-time thing, right? You got to do it over and over again. So in your pews, there's a name tag. I thought I would just give us a little habit that we could practice this week as a church. So for you online, this is the time for pen and paper. And you could write on the top of your paper, "Hello, my name is," which is what's written on the name tag. Now, some of you might have already put your name tags on with your name on it. That's fine. But you can take them off or pick up another one. And can we have this slide? Write on your name tag one of these names, the Lord's Delight, or Married to the Lord. Or if you want something simpler, just One God Loves. Now, you can wear it today if you want, but what I'm really after is that you take it home and put it somewhere where you will see it every morning. For me, that's the bathroom mirror. Maybe it's the coffee maker for you, or you stick it in your Bible or someplace. And when you see it, take 1 minute to receive the love of God. Do you have 1 extra minute in the morning? You might just be silent. You might need words. You could say to him, "Open my heart to your love," or "Help me believe my name. Let me live into it." Take 1 minute. And then see how this impacts your day. I've been wearing my name tag around for a few days now. One side says, "My name is Married to the Lord," and the other says, "The Lord's Delight." And I've been kind of surprised at how much impact this has had for me. So the sense of constancy has been great for me. I've done some things that I know don't please the Lord, and it's still here. And in challenges, I find myself hanging on to that. Okay, I know you love me. Let's tackle this one. So I'm hoping that good could come for you out of having this name tag. And then in Monday's email, I'll suggest to you several other habits that could help you go deeper, or maybe the Lord has his own unique path for you. But I'm hoping that we can take up this call. What would happen if God's people in this county moved deeper into his love? His love is transformative. What would happen here? In C.S. Lewis' book, The Horse and His Boy, there is a young boy for whom the words desolate and deserted would apply well. What he doesn't know is that he's actually the child of a king and was lost in an accident early on. He goes through a lot of adventures, and eventually he meets the king. He receives his new identity and a new name. Not new to the king, but new to the boy. You could end the book there, but Lewis wisely goes on to say, it took him quite a while to learn to live in the new identity. And that's the case for us, right? It takes us a while to learn, but we can grow in this. The Lord can lead us in this, and wonderful things will come of it. Let's pray. Lord Jesus, it's a good thing that you do this because we are not capable. We cannot rename ourselves. We cannot restore our county. But it's you, Lord. We trust in you and we surrender to you. Lord, let us know our names. Open our hearts to your love. Amen. Joe has a song for us that I'm hoping you can take in as God's love for you. And then he's going to lead us in a little practice with the name tags, where we can have a moment of silence to receive the Lord's love.
Indeed. Well, this is a song that we, at least for this week, are just going to sing over you. Next week, we're going to ask you to sing it with us. But we're just going to take a week to introduce it and for you to receive these words. It's a song called Whole Heart. And as we approach this topic in worship of our new name, there was a few reasons I was drawn to this song. I wanted to introduce this song today. It's a line that's sort of, well, there's two lines in here that I think really stick out to us as we listen to these lyrics. One of them is this lyric, called me by, you set me on a rock, you pulled me from the clay, you called me by your name, which is a line that kind of made my ears perk up about what does that mean, but it makes sense in this context of understanding that God has actually brought us into this familial relationship with him. That's exactly what happens when someone gets married, is they actually many times take on a new name. And in this case, we are brought into the family of God and we actually take on God's name as his beloved. And then this other line that I think just really speaks to what many of us are going to, that knowing that love and knowing his love and grace gives us more reasons to sing than to fear. And so we're gonna play this song for you this morning. We invite you to receive it as we worship.
That created the heavens, find me now, where the grace runs as deep as your scars. You pulled me from the clay, set me on a rock, called me by your name, made my heart whole again. Lifted up. all for your glory. I might stay with more reasons to sing than to fear. He pulled me from the clay, set me on a rock, called me by your name, made my heart whole again. So here I stand, high in surrender. I need you now. Hold my heart now and forever. My soul cries out. Once I was broken, you loved my whole heart through. Sin has no hold on me, 'cause your grace holds me now. And that grace holds the ground where the grave did. All my shame remains, left for dead in your way. You crushed those angel gates, you left no stone unturned. You stepped out of that grave, shouldered me all the way. Here I stand, high in surrender. I need you now. Hold my heart now and forever. My soul cries out. Once I was broken, you loved my whole heart through. Sin has no hold on me, 'cause your grace holds me now. Healed and forgiven. Look where my chains are now. Death has no hold on me, 'cause your grace holds that ground. Your grace holds me now. 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 Here I stand, high in surrender. I need you now. Hold my heart now and forever. My soul cries out. Here I stand, high in surrender. I need you now. Hold my heart now and forever. My soul cries out. Once I was broken, you loved my whole heart through. Sin has no hold on me, 'cause your grace holds me now. Healed and forgiven. Look where my chains are now. Hold on
come to the Lord in prayer is just have those name tags in front of you where we've written those names that God knows us by. And we're just going to spend some time receiving that. Lord, as we come to you this morning, we know that there are so many things that we could pray for, so many things that need your attention, things that we desperately want for your goodness, for your power to break into. And yet this is where we start, is just knowing how much you love us, how much we are called by your name, how much we are brought into your family. And so we take a moment, Lord, just to receive that. We take a moment in silence just to receive and meditate on what these names mean to us, and that this is how you know us. As we dwell in the truth that this is how you know us, we pray that this would fill us up, that this truth would fill us, and our new identity in you would become so powerful that we can take this out to the people in this world who are hurting, the people in our own communities who've been affected by the devastation of the Marshall Fire. We pray that this would empower your church, your people, your bride, to carry good news where it is so desperately needed, both here in our community and abroad. We ask for your provision, for your wisdom, Lord, that you would guide us by your Spirit to be the healing hands and feet in this world. And as we lift up all the areas where we so desperately want you to break in, Lord, we first rest in this new identity. And as we pray to you, God, we'll say together the words that you taught us to pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. Friends, let me invite you to stand, and we're going to sing one more song together. You unravel me with a melody. You surround me with a song of deliverance from my enemies, till all my fears are gone. 'Cause I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. From my mother's womb, you have chosen me. Love has called my name, and I've been born again into your family. Your blood flows through my
am a child of God, and I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I am surrounded by the arms of the Father. I am surrounded by songs of deliverance. We've been liberated from our bondage. We're the sons and the daughters, so we sing our freedom. Whoa, you split the sea so I can walk right through it. My fears were drowned in perfect love. You rescued me so I can stand and sing. I am a child of God. You split the sea. You split the sea so I can walk right through it. My fears were drowned in perfect love. You rescued me so I can stand and sing. I am a child of God. I am a child of God. I am a child of God.
So we've got a prayer team down here this morning. And as long as I have the pulpit this morning, I just wanted to put in a plug and remind you that they want to pray for sick people. So if you're sick, or you got somebody in your family who's sick who's not here, or you have any other need, they would love to pray with you. I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Lori Nieweiner. I was not always Lori Nieweiner. I used to be Lori Hill. And the day that I got married, my name was legally changed from Lori Hill to Lori Nieweiner. So I had a new name. But it took me a while to learn how to spell it. May you learn your new names. Go in peace. Amen.